Okay, this is our next lesson on Eisenhower. He is the president after Truman, and this lesson is a little bit of a continuation of the previous one on the fabulous 50s, which were pretty fabulous for a little while, and then we kind of got into this war on communism, and things started to escalate a bit, and we created some problems for ourselves. So this next lesson that continues the one from the fabulous 50s and deals with the president of Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was president from 1953 all the way up to 1961, is all about the escalation of the war on terror, or war on communism. And so today we're going to talk about escalating the war on communism and how that turned out for us, how we got into other races for power in regards to natural resources, and also wanting to express our dominance as far as the space race. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about how the civil rights movement basically grew out of the escalation of the war, out of the Cold War, and the efforts to contain communism, and how that's connected to McCarthyism. So let's go ahead and get started. So when President Eisenhower took office, one of the first things that the Congress did was to make it a point to pass an amendment to limit the presidential terms that one person could have. And this was the 22nd Amendment, which said that a president could not have more than two terms. So I have to insert that here because it's a pretty important amendment, even though it doesn't really go with escalating the war on communism. But to continue on with that discussion, President Eisenhower came up with his doctrine on communism, and every president during the Cold War from 1945 to basically 1989 or 1991, whichever date you choose to use for when the Cold War actually ended. I always like to use 1989 because that's the year that the Berlin Wall fell. Every president during those years comes up with their own idea about how to contain communism. And so President Eisenhower had his own doctrine, and within that doctrine was something called brinkmanship. And Eisenhower believed that we should be willing to go to the brink of nuclear war, or at least to make the threat of it, in order to stop any expansion of communism. And so he is all about brinkmanship. And brinkmanship was powerful enough to end the conflict in Korea, at least for the United States participation, in that it brought both sides to the peace table and it ended that conflict in the Korean War. Castro will take over in Cuba also during this time, which will also aggravate our fears of the spread of communism, because now not only do we have China, we have North Korea, and we have also now Cuba, which is very close to our own nation, under the communist government and the influence of the USSR. Possibly because that and because of other things going on, we will begin to make some peacekeeping efforts with the USSR. This is what's known as détente. It's a French word for peace efforts and talks with the USSR during his presidency, and things were going pretty well until we had a spy plane crash over Russia. We had a plane called the U-2. It's this particular type of spy plane that took pictures of territories that it flew over. And so we have this pilot that is captured by the USSR authorities. We have to negotiate his release, and this just escalated tensions between us and the USSR during this time. Another theory that's being kicked around a little bit in regards to how to combat communism is something called modernization theory. And this theory is that if we go and we spend money to modernize nations, we bring them U.S. goods, we bring them education, and make it possible for them to live a life that is like the life that we live in the U.S., that they would be more willing to resist communism. And then finally, another theory that is being projected in this era is the domino theory. And the domino theory is the theory that if one nation, small nation, falls to communism, a nation next door to that nation would be more likely to fall to communism, and then nations will fall like dominoes until basically communism is at our back door. So there was this idea that we have to go to these other nations around the world and continue to put money into fighting communism, send troops. And domino theory was one of those theories that pushed us deeper into the Vietnam conflict because as we see first China, then North Korea, then Cuba falling to communism, we worried that any other nations that fall to communism or become communist are it's just another domino falling where we're just going to have nation after nation becoming communist. So during this era, we have lots of efforts to jump in and get natural resources and control territories and to project our power through either taking over territories for control of the vital natural resource of oil, and also to gain a strong reputation as a powerful, technologically advanced nation by participating in the space race. And so in 1956, we have a crisis in the Suez Canal. This occurs with Egypt, and what happens is that Egypt basically wants our help. It wants more money from us, and we decide basically that we're not going to help them build the dam that they wanted to build. And because we're not willing to get in there and help, they turn to the Soviet Union. They nationalized the Suez Canal, which mean basically that they took it over and controlled it as a nation, which would greatly impact trade in that area. And so because of this crisis, we began to support Israel as a nation that would help stabilize the Middle East and promote the U.S. political beliefs and agenda. And this decision has greatly affected our reputation among Middle Eastern nations because there's a lot of dislike between the nation of Israel and other Middle Eastern nations. A lot of it is founded in the difference in their religious beliefs. However, because we supported Israel and we also, supported some of the Israeli efforts to gain more land in that part of the world, and we supported some of their wars, we gained a lot of mistrust and distrust with other Middle Eastern nations like Egypt, also Saudi Arabia. We do begin to get a foothold, though, in Saudi Arabia with the oil industry at this time. As I said before, we are going to enter the space race. We will create the organization now known as NASA, National Aeronautic and Space Administration. And reason that we do so is because the Soviets are quickly getting ahead of us in the space race, and we feel like that we have to compete with them on this. And this is a news article about the Soviets firing an Earth satellite into space, and we're really, really concerned about our ability to show that we are as technologically advanced, if not more technologically advanced, and so it becomes a space race. Eisenhower will sponsor the NDEA, National Defense Education Act, which will promote and pour money into education to build the technology or gain the technology that is needed for the space race. Also, during this time, as a result of some of the mistrust involved with Middle Eastern nations and the race to control oil, several nations will form several oil-producing nations will form an organization called OPEC. OPEC is the organization that controls the price of a barrel of oil. It's a group of nations that meet together I believe it's every quarter, and they sit down and they decide the price of oil. And our dependence on oil means that we are subject to those price changes pretty regularly, even though now we've kind of gained some energy independence. So, just to recap a little bit, that was a lot, all in the very first part. We escalated the war on communism through these new ideas and theories. Also, due to the fact that Cuba had fallen to communism, we began to get even more concerned because this nation is very close to us. We do attempt to try to slow things down as far as our animosity or dislike with Russia, but we are continuing to spy on them, and you can imagine that they didn't appreciate that very much. We enter the oil and the space race in this period of time and escalate efforts in that area. Now, the last part of this lesson, having to do with the Eisenhower era and the escalation of the war on communism, has to do with how the civil rights movement grew out of it. So we have within the civil rights movement, as people are accused of being communist and put in jail without much evidence offered, there's more and more concern about civil rights. We have more people who begin to pay attention to a lack of civil rights in this nation because we have more people being accused without evidence having their civil rights violated. And so in 1958 we have a landmark case of the Supreme Court, Brown versus Board of Education, is going to reverse the decision Plessy versus Ferguson, which basically said in 1877 that separate but equal facilities were legal. And this all comes about in conjunction with Rosa Parks' effort to desegregate buses and public transportation in Montgomery. And in parts of the South, there will be efforts that will continue to attempt to desegregate public transportation. And she did so because of another court case which said that because transportation networks go across state lines, some of the transportation goes across state lines, that federal law has now desegregated. Federal jobs have been desegregated because of Truman, and as a result, that case comes about that we no longer are going to segregate public transportation. Rosa Parks basically tests that in Montgomery in 1955, and we're going to talk a little bit about how that all came about. Also, with this Brown versus Board of Education, we will see the effort to desegregate schools. There is a group of students called the Arkansas or the Little Rock Nine who will attempt to go to a school, and these 9 African Americans will attempt to go to high school in Little Rock, and the picture here basically tells the story of how people reacted in the South to these African Americans who tried to go to just try to do a normal thing that we all do, every day, is just come to school and get an education. Because of these new cases and because of efforts to desegregate transportation and education, a group of southern states will get together and sign a document called the Declaration of Constitutional Principles, which will say that these southern states are going to resist these efforts at integration. In 1957, a new Civil Rights Act will be passed, which will attempt to support these court cases that deal with desegregation and integration. Going forward, we will have several civil rights organizations that will be formed. The Southern Christian Leadership Conference will occur in 1957 in conjunction with attempts in the South to challenge segregation on public transportation. This is the organization led by Martin Luther King Jr., and they will get involved in several of these protests in the South. One of them specifically involves the efforts in Montgomery to put pressure, and they will stop trash pickup. A new organization is SNCC, This organization will begin a sit-in movement, which will be very powerful. And because of this emphasis and awareness on civil rights, we will have Mexican Americans who will resist deportation that was instituted by the Eisenhower administration. This was called Operation Wetback, in which they will send Mexican Americans back to Mexico who had helped us in World War II. And here are some of the riots that occurred that were called the Zoot Suit riots because of a particular type of suit worn. And that is all for this lecture. I hope you learned a little bit about